Hello and welcome to Local Giving's webinar providing an update on our legacy work in Wales and also showing the resources that we've developed as a response to that legacy work. Before I go into the resources themselves, it would just be really good to cover a reminder of what Local Giving does, what I mean by online fundraising, and what our programme in Wales has looked like so far. Many of you will be familiar with this, but as I know there are also some new faces and staff handovers, then I'll just cover the basics as well. So Local Giving is a not-for-profit that has been around for over 10 years UK-wide. Since 2016, we've been delivering a programme of specific support in Wales, which I'll go into in a minute. Essentially, Local Giving is an online fundraising platform where organisations can sign up, whether they're registered charities or not, as long as they're a not-for-profit, and then we can support them to raise income from individuals, be that through specific online campaigns or direct debit donations, and I'll show you examples of those different donation pages as well. By online fundraising, I mean anything where the money is collected digitally. That can be by the internet or by mobile, and it is a really large portion of UK income now. It accounts for a quarter of all donations, so it is well worth organisations looking into, and it is a flexible and restricted form of income as well, which is really useful to organisations compared to a lot of other forms of income that maybe are very restricted. It really needs minimal resource, and the internet is very much used by every age range as well. So whoever an organisation is working with, wherever they're based, it is really relevant to them. In July 2016, we launched initially a 2-year programme in Wales that provided 250 community organisations and charities with a free 1 year of membership with Local Giving and as much support as they needed in that time. That consisted of one-to-one training. I would go and meet them wherever they're based. It consisted of £200 match funding. So the first £200 they raised online would be doubled, and as much support as they needed to really explore that income for the first time, get it off the ground, and then succeed and become confident with that form of income as well. The last 2 years, we've launched year 3 and 4 of the programme. That provided continued support to the existing 250 charities, but also unlocked another 100 free places that were then distributed. As with the first 2 years, these places represent all 22 counties across Wales and, many different types of organisations as well that work in many different fields of expertise. On the right page here is an example of a donation page. So the first step that any Local Giving member takes is to create this online donation page that sums up their work as a whole, that allows them to have donors click a donate now button to donate any amount that they like, and we process the gift aid for our members as well. And there's also the option to set up a monthly donation or for individuals to fundraise for the organisation themselves. All of these options feed directly into the organisation's bank account, and there are also bilingual options on these pages so that people can go through the donation process in Welsh as well. With support, organisations can then look at raising money in different areas as well. This includes appeal pages, which essentially is the same as crowdfunding or campaigns, as they are sometimes otherwise known. Essentially, it's the means to be able to raise money towards a specific event or piece of equipment or project. Anything that can have a specific target against it, then it's really a push to be able to raise money towards that specific need. And they are campaigns that really have a sense of urgency, and a lot of organisations in Wales have done very well out of them. So they're temporary pages that would just run for a fixed amount of time where the group chooses to focus on raising money for that particular aspect. Fundraiser pages are the only page that aren't made by the organisation themselves. They could be made by any individual who wants to support the organisation. They can have as many people doing fundraisers at any one time, and again, what they raise feeds directly into the group's bank account. These organisations that have fundraisers, are really expanding their networks as well, because a number of people will be donating to fundraiser pages that wouldn't necessarily have known about their organisation beforehand. In the last it's approaching 4 years. It's over 3.5 years now that the Wales programme has been running. So having worked with such a large number over the whole of Wales, we've really been able to see what organisations need and what works best for them in different sorts of communities, in different sorts of themes and genres of charities, to work out how to help them to raise as much as possible and really engage their network and grow their audience as well. In the last 3.5 years, that has looked like 76 workshops for over 500 attendees, well over 300 one-to-one training sessions. And at the moment, we're working our way towards, we're going to significantly go over the £1 million mark in terms of what we raise. We're currently on 855,000 that we've helped organisations to raise, which is well over target already, before we've even reached the end of our 4 years. That has really happened because it's been an awful lot of one-off donations and monthly direct debits. And in this current time period as well, that has by no means stopped. Wales Groups are absolutely smashing it at this time, letting people know what they need to survive and to make their work, reach as many people as possible at this time as well. We've recently just completed a new member survey. This is the previous member survey, so I'll release the new data to you shortly. But 94% of our members had no access to online fundraising training. It was obviously very specific, and CVC Network has been absolutely brilliant in partnering with us in reaching groups across every region to ensure that they have access to know what online fundraising is, that they can come along to training sessions that have been held in the CVC premises, and that they can really ensure that their members are getting the support that is available there as well. And the outcomes have been really strong of that. The legacy work has been something that has been, really central to what we've agreed to do with our funders from the very start. At the end of our first 2 years of doing the Wales programme, we wanted to be at the point where CVCs felt they were able to continue online fundraising support themselves. But doing a survey, only 59% of the CVCs felt that they were in a position at that point to deliver ongoing fundraising training that really focused on online giving. This meant that in our last 2 years, we've really addressed how we can make sure that it's as easy as possible for CVCs to refer their members and other third sector support organisations to refer their members to resources or knowledge that can really help organisations explore online fundraising and make it a key part of their ongoing income as well. This has involved a lot of conversations with the CVCs themselves and with the National Lottery Community Fund, who have been really, really keen to see this happen as well. So the intentions of the legacy work are that we would have a body of resources that are comprehensive enough that organisations could work through them themselves, or that a third sector support organisation such as the CVC could sit down with an organisation and signpost them to the relevant resources, or actually work through step by step some of those resources with them. It times in nicely with WCVA's new online portal that we're able to trial the hosting of those resources with WCVA at this time, and then they'll be accessible both to the CVCs and to the wider membership network as well through that. Since February, we've been working really closely with PAVO in particular to really test run some of these resources. In particular, there's an online fundraising guidebook that we've been creating that really takes an organisation through step by step what online fundraising is, details on the specific aspects, and then a lot of advice and tasks around how to succeed with that. We've met, between us, we've met 14 organisations that we've given an initial training to that is solely focused around this guidebook. And I've been able to meet with PAVO, and I've also been able to continue some of those sessions remotely by video training as well across the last few months, and it's been really useful to work with them. With PAVO, they very generously shared 6 staff with me so that we can use our time collectively to reach groups in every area of Wales to test run the guidebook with them. And PAVO have very much been involved in leading those training sessions themselves, in getting used to the guidebook, and then being able to give first-hand feedback on what they think works or doesn't work or needed adapting. And we've really been able to edit the content together in that sense, which I really appreciate their help on. This has left us with a guidebook where we are really happy with the content, and then we've then sent it off to a designer, and then we've made some further additions up to yesterday even, and so we're ready to share that with you today and give you an example really of all those other resources as well. So as I mentioned, WCVA is developing their new online portal, and this means that all of our resources will be available via that portal. And this means that organisations will be able to download them themselves, to print off, or to go through on their own computers as well, and that they'll be really accessible in that way. This is an overview of the resources available, and then I'm going to show you what those resources look like. So as I mentioned, there is a guidebook. There are 2 versions of that guidebook in English and 2 versions in Welsh. One of those is an interactive version where there are links and you can move about the guidebook by clicking on various buttons and things like that as well. The other is a static document that is more purpose-built for being printed. And the guidebook is designed so that you could print it off 2 pages at a time, almost in a handout style as well, if you didn't want to print off the whole document. As soon as we've confirmed that all of the changes to the guidebook have been successful, we're going to get an entire Welsh version made. I've already had the translation work done for that, so it'll be fully bilingual as well. We've then made a number of one-page resources that could almost act as posters or handouts as well, that really just summarise the key aspects of online fundraising, and I'll show you all of them as well in a minute. And then there's also going to be a number of video resources. One of those will be a full hour recorded training session so that CVCs or other third sector support organisations can directly forward groups onto that video so that they can really have that basis of training there as well. In my experience, that video has been enough for groups to know what they're doing, and then a follow-up call can then be useful to discuss any ideas or any questions as well. And so in that sense, it's quite a hands-off approach. If we're kind of weaning some groups off of Local Giving's online fundraising program, then that is enough support there for them to get off the ground with online fundraising. In those video resources, there will also be a guide to how CVCs can use the resources. That'll be a version of this webinar, a reduced version of this webinar that really just gives an overview of the resources. So if there's new staff at any point, then they could watch a summary video and understand the context and how they can use all of that's available to them through this. And there'll be a similar guide directly for organisations as well, so that they can have an introduction to the resources and know what they're looking at. All of the webinars that Local Giving has run over the last 3.5 years will also be available as part of this resource pack. And I'll send you these slides afterwards so that you can access these links as well and have a look. These are just 4 of the titles of some of the webinars that will be available. So there's an overview introduction to online fundraising, and then a lot of the webinars look more specifically in detail at areas of online fundraising. That might be developing a fundraising strategy. It might be looking at the barriers of crowdfunding, or it might look at things such as we did a collaboration with the Wales Cooperative Centre to look at community shares and online fundraising and how they work together as well. Just to give you an overview of some of the one-page resources. So I know that you won't be able to read them this small, but I'll be able to share everything afterwards. I just wanted to give you an overview of what this looked like, and then we're going to look at the online fundraising guidebook in a lot closer detail. So there's one resource on a guide to crowdfunding appeals. This looks at why organizations should be fundraising online at all, what is a crowdfunding appeal, why you should be looking at crowdfunding, and then breaks down what you should be thinking about around a fundraising target, around planning, around making a strong start, things to consider as you're going, and then how to think about your future fundraising as well. There's an English and a Welsh version of that resource, as there is with all the others as well. The next resource is a guide to fundraisers. that again looks at what are fundraisers, why you'd want to look at them, how you can help fundraisers, and then it breaks down the different sorts of fundraisers that there are and how to develop strong ideas and recruit fundraisers as well. The next resource is a guide to regular donors. Again, this breaks down what it is and why you should look at it, who are regular donors, what are the sizes that you should look at, what you should highlight to donors, and the outcomes and how to ask and how to take really good care of your donors as well there. And the fourth resource is a guide to raising awareness, growing a network, and driving engagement. So it really looks at promotion. It looks at why is it key to raise awareness of what you're doing, what awareness needs to be raised, how to plan that, who to reach, how to reach them, promotional methods, and turning engagement into action as well. So that is a really useful resource that sits alongside any of the other three as well in how to further reach people in each of those aspects of fundraising. So I'm now going to attempt to share my screen, so bear with me, and I'll be able to show you one of those resources in a close-up view, and then also the guidebook. So my screen should now be shared with you now, or it should change over in the next couple of seconds. If it's not, then I will share a recording afterwards where you can see this properly. So a guide to crowdfunding appeals. This is just a zoomed in version of one of the one-page resources I just showed you, just so you can see one more closely. So it just breaks down into really easy snapshots, the key tips, the key facts, and the key bits of advice. So this is really something that an organisation can work through themselves, can really, pass on to a volunteer so that they could understand how to help them with it. And it's got the very basic, clear information there that people can work through, and they can understand why it's important. And hopefully this will help them begin to make it work for them as well. The main purpose of this webinar is to share this guidebook with you. I'm just going to flick back to check the comments section. Good, no one's commented that they can't see the screen share, so hopefully that is all working absolutely fine there. So this is the online fundraising guidebook. It is a just over 30-page document, but it is very visual and it's very easy to read, and it can be broken down into chunks that groups can just focus on what's relevant to them. There is content that is fully interactive, so you can click different bits and it will take you through to different pages. I'll show you a zoomed in version of a couple of the pages later so that you can, really see what it looks like close up as well. It flows with an information page and then a task for each area, so you can really look at, what it is, and the group can really get their head around what it is that they can plan in their area and how they can get started as well. So it looks at what is online fundraising and why is it important. It looks at the different types of online donation pages, as we've looked at ourselves now in the webinar. It looks at how to create a strong donation page. It looks at segmenting and growing your supporter base. It looks at developing a fundraising strategy. It looks at promoting your cause, case for support, and fundraising efforts. It looks at marketing methods. It looks at engaging regular donors. It looks specifically at fundraisers and crowdfunding and setting up a fundraising plan. As you can see, PAVO provided us with a lovely quote there that sums up their experience with us and in testing the guidebook and how they think it could work as well. So initially, the first section really sets the context for why someone should be putting the time into looking at online fundraising and considering this guidebook in detail as well. There's then a task so that organisations can really look at what is their history, where are they at, what are the skills they have, what fundraising do they currently undertake, and can really be set up to consider how online fundraising might fit in with their existing work. The guidebook then shows an illustration of different sorts of donation pages. They're all WELS organisations as well, and it looks at what this page looks like. It gives an overview of how you might use this page, and then each of the further sections in the guidebook goes into more detail in what that looks like and how you can succeed in that area of fundraising. With fundraiser pages, there's also a focus on corporates as well, and how you might encourage a business to do a fundraiser for you. A lot of Wales organisations have benefited in that way as well. It then looks at how you can create a strong donation page. If those are the different sorts of pages you can make, then how do you make those pages as effective as possible? And it really makes organisations consider, what they're doing, why they're there to help, what are the outcomes of their support, and why do they need funding to help that happen. We then also encourage them to look at an example of a worse donation page compared to a strong donation page, so that they can see the value of really thinking about the content that the public first come into contact with as well. The guidebook then goes into detail on how to really grow your network. So it looks at segmenting and growing your supporter base. So what is a supporter base? How do you increase the supporters that you're interacting with? And then there's a task that then allows groups to really look at who is it that you interact with and what is the best message for them as well. It then moves into developing a fundraising strategy, looking at the key steps then of the different stages you should do to really be aware of where you're at, of where you want to go. What are the best ways to do that? What are your strengths? And what do you want the outcomes to be, and how you've carefully planned each step of that. So this will allow them to create a full strategy that takes into account online fundraising and helps it fit in with other forms of fundraising as well there. We then encourage organisations to look at what their current situation is, what the opportunities are that are coming their way for fundraising as well, and how their strategy can fit in that. And then we really want them to start looking at their case for support, and how they can promote their cause, and what their communication is around that as well. And as part of that, we encourage them to develop an elevator pitch. There are some images in this guidebook that are still being finalised, but the text is all pretty finalised. So I'll share this with you afterwards, and you can let me know if there's any feedbacks as well. We then look at marketing and the marketing side of promotion, and allow groups to organise how they might spread the word through different forms of communication. We provide digital marketing tips, because obviously an online fundraising page ideally does need online promotion specifically as well. And then we look at how organisations can encourage monthly donations. So that's direct debits, where they know exactly who's giving to them every month. That's a reliable source of income, and it's really healthy to encourage your supporters to support you on a regular basis like that. We then look at what are the amounts that you can encourage people to support, what are the long-term impacts of that, and what different monthly donations equate to. The guidebook then moves on to look at fundraisers and specifically explore who your fundraisers could be, how you can engage them, the different sorts of events you can encourage fundraisers to take part in or organise themselves, or that you can arrange as an organisation, and tips of really how to succeed at fundraisers and the benefits of that. And then there's also a task to help organisations plan out their own fundraising event as well, and one that really won't take up much time either, but fits in with something that they're already doing. The guidebook then looks at crowdfunding, and by that I mean appeals or online campaigns, anything where multiple people are giving small donations to fund one larger output there, and how you can really engage those audiences, how you can really make it feel very vital that that piece of work needs funding now, and that you're fundraising for it now for a particular reason. And really looking at how you can succeed at raising a large sum of money from many people in quite a short amount of time there as well. And then there's a task that really helps them plan out their ideas for a campaign like that as well. In terms of setting up a fundraising plan, it is obviously really vital then to work out what you want to do when, and how that breaks out across the whole year as well. And there is a task then that allows them to plan a calendar of activity in terms of their fundraising priorities, and what equates to different times of the year, or what fits in with things that they already do as well. There is then a task that then really sets out the key action points for how they need to start. the key steps that they need to get into place imminently before they can then essentially put everything in place that has been talked about in the guidebook as a whole. And then on the back page, we credit the National Lottery Community Fund, who of course have funded this, and PAVO and their help, and everyone else that has helped us get to this point as well. So that is the guidebook, an overview of the guidebook and what each section covers. Just to illustrate again, it really breaks down as a page of information and then a task, so that you could essentially print those 2 pages back to back and it'd be one task that you handed out if that was relevant to the group you're meeting or a training session you were doing or anything else as well. Just to show you one page in a zoomed in style, just so you can see how it reads. So for example, this is segmenting and growing your supporter base. This really talks about the potential of the supporter base. It encourages organizations to think about different segments of their network and what the best message is for them and how they might reach those members as well. There are lots of quotes throughout the guidebook from Wales organisations about how they found it to encourage those who might be reading the guidebook that they can make it work for them as well. And then the following task then really helps organisations to map their potential supporter network. So as you can see, it looks like this. It's entirely interactive, so you can then start to fill in different bits of the guidebook as well. And there's an example there as well, so you can see what it looks like. And the organisation could fill this in on their computer, they could fill it in online, or they could print it off if that's how they prefer to work. They'd much rather choose a paper and pen. That's absolutely fine as well. But yeah, just to show you how that looks, things like the strategies are, it's really visual and it's just really easily broken down, and you can work through it step by step without anything really being too intimidating there as well. And then just to show you some of the interactive aspects. So for example, say I was specifically interested in fundraisers, then it's easy enough to be able to jump to specific areas, and you can really move through different areas as well there. And the tasks as well. You can really move through different things. I was on the static version there. This is the interactive version. Say I was interested in fundraisers. That's what I'd click, and I'd be taken straight to that then as well. And that's how it works. So that is the guidebook. We've been working really closely on a designer to make that as visual as possible, and PAVO have been really helpful in working out what is maybe a bit awkward visually or what looked more difficult to read, and we've been speaking with each other the last couple of days to get that ironed out, and we're really close to sorting it. As I said, it's literally just the case of switching a couple of images now, and we're there, and I'll email it through to all the CVCs so that they can have any feedback as well before we finalize it, and then we are able to go back and make any of the changes. And then that means that we'll be able to, have a finalised guidebook that I can share with everyone then. And I'll get the Welsh version made, and then there'll be a bilingual resource that is then finished to be able to get that hosted by WCVA and have that as a resource that can be shared openly across organisations in Wales. That is the key information that I really wanted to share with you today. And as I said, I have recorded this webinar so I can share it with other people afterwards. If you have any questions, then now is the perfect time to let me know them. I should get this recording sent to you by the end of the day, if not first thing in the morning. Thank you, Sarah, as well, for your comments, and thank you everyone else for confirming that you've been able to hear the webinar okay. But if you've got any questions, it'd be really useful if you could type them in the comment section now as well. That might be about the overall look of the guidebook. It might be questions about certain aspects of the legacy work, anything like that. Just feel free to put it in the comment section. I'll answer it as best I can. I've got a phone call with WCVA tomorrow where we're catching up on uploading the resources to the portal. Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Nick. So some of the PAVO staff have not only used the guidebook collectively when I've been visiting, and we've all used it together, but others like Nick here have been able to meet groups on a one-to-one basis to start to use it as well. It's like from my one-to-one training with groups, it really is exciting to see an organization realize that they can actually do something like this, and that it isn't a big monster that is really hard to start, but you can just work through it step by step, and there are really just a few simple actions you can put in place to start raising money from individuals online. And as soon as they start raising even a little bit of funding, they then get excited, they then can see the reward, and it's really good to see them go from strength to strength from that point when their confidence is really built up as well. Thank you, Heather, for your comments as well. Yeah, it is easy to separate out the different topics so that they could be printed. And yeah, thank you, Jane. That's great as well. Yeah, absolutely. Any CVCs that want a chat about the resource on a one-to-one or anything like that, that is absolutely fine. The portal is WCVA's own portal that they're redeveloping to host resources. Local giving itself is obviously one option that organizations can use to do online fundraising. There are a number out there. The main difference with local giving itself is that we are a not-for-profit, whereas other ones such as Virgin Money Giving, Just Giving, they are all profit-making organizations. Everything we do goes entirely into feeding back to the organizations that we work with. On top of it being, very financially feasible to work with us, we no longer have any commissions on donations under £200. So that means that individuals giving £5, £10, £50, the organizations are getting that money coming straight through to them. We're able to process the gift aid, and we're also able to process gift aid for organizations that aren't registered charities either. So that means that everyone is able to have access to that extra 25%, whether they're registered charity or not. And that's because of a special arrangement that we have with the Local Giving Foundation. And then Local Giving is also able to offer support. So whereas ordinarily an organisation would sign up to a fundraising platform, they'd have to work it out themselves, we're really able to help them over the phone. In Wales, I'm able to meet them face to face. We're really able to give them the support they need, the training they need. And then on top of that, we provide additional funding as well. So throughout the year, we offer prize opportunities, we offer grant opportunities, and we offer match fund opportunities. So it really is a risk-free way for groups to give a new form of income a go, to be fully supported in making that a success, and to unlock additional funding along the way as well. Our whole purpose is to really help small and medium-sized charitable groups in doing that. So it really is our specialism to work with those smaller organizations rather than huge organizations that have a fundraising department and have skills and pairs of hands to really put this into place. We work very closely with small organizations with small amounts of staff or solely volunteer run, and that is our corner of the market, as it were, as well. Thank you, Angela. That's great. It'll be really exciting when the CVCs are able to start testing this, and it's definitely we can keep the conversation going on how it goes, and I'm sure we can adapt anything that needs to be adapted as well. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Alex. It really would be great if you could share the guidebook with your wider teams as well when we're able to finalize it, and then everyone's got it to hand. Hopefully this should be a time saver. If there are all of the, training videos and the guidebook and the one-page resources, CVCs can direct organizations, their members, straight to those resources. Hopefully it means that knowledge, is embedded in those resources. It's not lost, and it really saves the CVC's time, but they're able to, add an extra string to their bow, and that makes sense. CVCs are amazing in how many areas they support organizations in and how much fundraising knowledge there is, and hopefully these resources will just provide an extra direction to direct people in if they want to find out more about encouraging individuals to support them online as well. Okay, brilliant. Any more questions, let me know. It seems to have gone quiet on the question front, so that's great. Feel free to email me any questions as well, or let me know if you want to chat on the phone. I really appreciate you all tuning in today. It's really great to see so many CVCs represented and to have so many individuals from the CVCs and WCVA tuning in. As I said, I'll share the recording, but any questions from people who are watching the recording or from yourselves, just pass them over my way. Okay, I'll just wait another 10 seconds or so in case somebody else wants to write any comments. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate everyone's thanks. And I'm going to stop the recording now, but I'll stay online for another couple of minutes as well in case anyone's got any questions. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate your support.